Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and I got two rules on the channel that I try to follow to make sure that the performance is good for all of us. Number one, I kind of avoid Nintendo videos because they don't do quite that well. Number two, the weebiest of RPGs, I try to restrain myself from covering, even if they are really up my alley. I know my audience, and I know a lot of you aren't like about those die-hard JRPGs, but I tend to break rule number two quite a bit, and that's because I myself am a weeb. And now that's not just an opinion, okay? Because it has been brought into reality with the beauty of math. See? Matty equals weeb. This is math you cannot argue. I'm sorry. You just have to accept the facts at this point in time. Really. So I've been getting a lot of questions about Genshin Impact. This is a newly released free-to-play open world RPG with some gacha elements in it. Now, I've been playing a lot of gacha on my phone lately. You guys know I'm a fan of Tales of Krystoria. I kind of fell off the game a little bit, but I played a ton of this game, man. Anytime I was like editing videos, that game was rolling. So I'm going from one gacha game to the other, and the way I would define this game that's now on the PC, PS4, and phones is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It presents itself as something entirely different from the bunch, right? An open world, free-to-play game. It welcomes you in, but eventually you find that, sadly, this game is also built around virtually all of its monetization mechanics. Now, if you can accept the game for what it is, which I personally struggle to do, it is a fine example of how cheap gaming can be nowadays with the likes of Game Pass, and now you're getting free-to-play open-world games rich with content coming our way. I imagine you can find a way to have a good time with it. I don't think it's really that difficult because there are things that are enjoyable about the game. But it'll always be scratching in the back of your head, like it was for mine, that the game never quite rewards you like it once did in the opening hours of the game. While it takes all of an hour to hit, say, Adventure Rank 5, Rank 6 to 10 will be noticeably longer. You'll notice how little XP they give you when you open chests. It was the first game I can personally ever recall that was given to me for free by a company, and I wish I could have just paid for it. The solution here, I feel, before anyone asks any questions and I start analyzing the game from top to bottom, is I feel they should have had a free trial version, which is the game that we're playing now, and then a version we could have paid for that got rid of all of this and had completely different progression elements. Because what's here is solid, it's interesting, and it's fun in a lot of ways. But as you start to sink your teeth in deeper and deeper, and I put about 15 hours in at this point in time, you start to really wish this could have been something a little bit different, even if it's not that bad. It's not that it's a horrible game. It's just that what it is actually designed around becomes more and more noticeable as you sink time in. So let's go ahead and start digging into Genshin Impact. A lot of people, of course, are drawing comparisons to Breath of the Wild, and how could you not, between the art style, the gliding, the climbing, the stamina bar, hell, the way even enemies fade away after dying. It is borderline shameless. Heck, they even have identical animations from Nier Automata in this game. So to say this game takes inspiration from other titles actually may be putting it very generously. I would argue it blatantly copies it. And now some have said it really diversifies itself with its story and its combat, and to some extent, yes, but this game heavily takes inspiration from, like I said, Breath of the Wild, Nier, where I started to find myself either A, wishing I could have paid for this game and got something a little bit different, or B, just going back to, say, the source material. So you will be introduced to a vast open world almost immediately here, featuring tons of little distractions like camps of enemies that you can fight or puzzles to solve. Sometimes there are quests, trials, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to do here in this open world, and there is a point deeper into the game where things truly open up and you feel like there's even more content than you had initially expected, almost a second awakening, if you will. Now, as you complete all of these objectives, you'll earn points that go toward your adventure rank. This does not represent the level of your characters, but rather is what I'd say is a content gate, so to speak. So say you reach rank 12, you're going to unlock this game's version of daily quests known as commissions. So the game is always dragging you around with something interesting, but it never quite heavily rewards you like it does, as I said, in those opening hours. Furthermore, with that content gate idea, and I don't say that negatively, at Adventure Rank 16, multiplayer unlocks. And by the way, multiplayer is not that good. We'll talk about that later on. As I said, though, as you sink your teeth more and more into the game, you'll realize some of the issues of it being built around a monetization scheme, most notably in character progression. You guys know me, I'm an RPG freak, so character progression matters a lot to me. I'm a sucker for deep RPG systems and tinkering with my characters, and this game, man, oh my god, it falls right into the gotcha pit immediately. It gets muddied so quickly. As you dig into that character screen, you see the materials which are required for the leveling up of the characters, weapons, artifacts, constellations, and so on. It just evolves into this special kind of mayhem some of us are all too familiar with if you've played gacha games in the past. The kind of mayhem where you just stop reading everything and start mindlessly looting tons of items that all start to look the same. So eventually this game became sort of a shut off your brain and just play type of game, which I've sort of been looking for, and I appreciate it for that, but I know it can be so much more when I'm playing it. That's half the problem here. Now, when it comes to materials, you can just reuse things that you've found in the open worlds or old weapons to, say, scale your weapons or scale your artifacts. But of course, when it comes to the likes of your constellations, that's where the gacha elements kick in. This is essentially ascending your character, something that, once again, we've seen in a lot of gacha games and will require you to roll the same character a lot. So, say you get a 5-star character. Pretty cool, right? I rolled Jean. She's a 5-star character, and that was hype as hell. But then to make Jean the best possible Jean she can be, I gotta roll her like 8 more times, which is extremely difficult given her rarity and the pull rates in the game. So eventually the grind sets in. But do you need an example of how much like currencies upon currencies upon currencies there are in this game? Let's talk a little bit about wishing, and this is how you start to get new weapons, the best weapons, and the best characters in the game, which, by the way, I don't complain about. It's free to play. They got to make their money somehow. This is their way of doing it. So as you complete objectives, you're going to earn this currency called Primo Gems. These Primo Gems can be spent and converted into wishes, which will allow you to roll for the new characters and weapons that I just mentioned. Now, you can either do that or buy Genesis Crystals, the premium currency, to convert into wishes. It's this multi-currency mind shank that kicks me out of gacha games literally every single time, and it became further punctuated at this item shop. So I remember Paimon stops me, right? Paimon's your little companion. She's like, ooh, let's take a look at this little item shop over here. Now, once again, wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm in this beautiful city. I'm thinking to myself, oh, item shop. Maybe they're going to be selling weapons here. And I click on it, and I'm just greeted by a menu full of like character materials and things that I'm going like, what is all of this? And of course, like with gacha games, you start to familiarize yourself with the characters, who needs what to ascend, to level up, and all that stuff. But it's so much, and it could have, I don't know, like, I'm losing the words, man. I'm losing the words because it just hits you with all these different names of materials where it's like borderline impossible to track it all. Okay, I've complained enough. Let's talk about combat. Combat is a positive in this game. I feel like it's the most unique feature out of everything that is presented in this game. So it plays in a very interesting manner. You'll always have one party member at the ready out of a squad of 4, but each member of your party will have different elements such as lightning, wind, fire, so on and so forth. And you can even sometimes light the grass on fire. So there is that environmental interactivity that is already present. But furthermore, it's about targeting enemy weaknesses. So maybe you're fighting a fire enemy and you'll switch to someone with wind, and then you'll combine it with lightning and you'll start to do these massive lightning based explosions, or you'll blow out a tornado and then set the tornado on fire and do tons of fire damage. Like, there are some really cool combinations you can do here, some great combos you can pull off. So the mixing and matching of elements, and as you start to face enemies that are honestly spongier, it's actually ironically where the combat became most fun, because I would actually have the room to start doing those bigger combos and messing around with the depth of the characters that are offered there in their combat systems. Now, once again, when you start to unlock like the 5-star characters by rolling for them, you'll notice they are mechanically deeper, more interesting, and more fun to play as. For example, Jean, her R2 ability, at least for those of you who are playing on the PS4, When I hold down that right trigger, she literally sucks everyone in the nearby vicinity in and then like blasts them away with a wind attack. So if you light everyone on fire, switch to Jean, you can absorb everyone and do a crazy AoE attack. And like, that's really fun. But once again, it boils down to rolling those characters to be able to experience that. And not everyone got as lucky as I did. I unlocked her on my first roll. But that is the nature of gacha games, which brings me to what I said at the beginning of this video, which is if you can accept that, you will have a decent time with it. If you can just go ahead and enjoy the free-to-play nature, you can keep exploring. The game doesn't stop you at any point, and that is awesome, right? Like I said, there are good things about this game. My point being with this whole video is that this game just could have been better. Now, part of what holds this back too is the fact that because of its gacha elements, because of its willingness to put itself on cellular devices, I believe future updates are really going to be held back here with the way that the game could actually have expanded. The multiplayer itself is disappointing, limiting you on a bunch of things that you could actually do in the open world itself. So for example, if you join a friend's world, you cannot open their chests. So you're just stuck kind of being their like JRPG party member rather than actually participating in things happening in the world. And I think this is because, once again, there's a phone version, so it has to be limited so that all versions of the game run the same. But like I said, this is a service game, so of course its future banks on its content upcoming. I can only imagine that this will also be limited by the phone version. Not only that, but as the game rolls out more playable characters, like any gacha game, you'll inevitably start to struggle to keep up with the content unless you're willing to dig into your wallet a little bit, or you do get a little bit lucky and you start to strategize when you want to spend your wishes. It's the nature of all gacha games, and that's exactly my point. It's not a bad gacha game. It's probably the only free-to-play game that you could keep playing its open world and its story, and it's not going to time gate you, energy gate you. It's just going to let you play, and for that, it is a step forward. You are absolutely going to see more games like Genshin Impact, but that's exactly why I'm being very critical of the game. It's because Genshin Impact could be a lot more, and I'm not saying give me the game for free, but I think maybe in the next, say, Genshin Impact-like game we see, where it is a free-to-play open-world game, try the trial version with something that's completely different from the version that you can pay for, because this game would be excellent if its progression systems were, I think, were reworked. But then you start to see the materials and how they all blend together and make less and less sense, and it just really starts to hurt itself the deeper you go into progressing into the game. As for the story, it's kind of there thinly. You're looking for this dragon Storm Terror, who's one of the great winds. I don't know, man. It wasn't like a grabbing story. It's about that world space. It's about that gameplay, and for that, it is enjoyable to go around and do things, but otherwise, I feel like future games that are like this title can do more, can do better. But Genshin Impact, is it worth your hard drive space? I mean, it's 10 gigabytes. I wasn't a huge fan of it personally, but for a free game, see if you like it, right? Like, that's kind of the beauty of this. You can hop in, see if you like it, and if you do like it, the game really doesn't stop you. So that's kind of the cool part of it all. But I feel like it's lacking of originality, kind of shamelessly copying everything about Breath of the Wild. Its gacha elements, as you start to see, it's really built around the monetization, which I understand has to make money. It's a free game, but I don't know, man. I was expecting more. I was expecting something a little bit different. I was hoping that there were different options of approach. I didn't get that, but that's just personally how I feel about the game. If you guys are enjoying it, that's all that matters. So I just want to go ahead and share my opinion in today's video. Looking forward to seeing what all of you think in the comments down below. Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. Big thank you to all of the patrons and members who continue to really push the limits of this content. Appreciate all of you. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.